Dermatologists remove papillomas with a laser for 2,000, 3,000 rubles each. Cryosurgeons use liquid nitrogen for around 1,000. And for the last 20 years, my patients have been removing them at home in one evening with a product that costs 60 rubles at any pharmacy. And I don't know of a single case of recurrence when used correctly, not a single one. I'm a doctor with 30 years of experience. And today I'll tell you not only about this product, but also about which growths should absolutely not be touched because they could be hiding something serious. My name is Andrei Voronkov, and before I name the products and give step-by-step instructions, we need to figure out what exactly is growing on your body. Because not every growth is a papilloma, not every bump is a wart, and to confuse them means missing the signal your body is trying to get through to you. Let's start with dreams. Papillomas and warts are the external manifestations of the human papillomavirus, HPV, one of the most common viruses on the planet. According to the World Health Organization, 80 to 90% of all people are infected. You caught it a long time ago, perhaps as a child, through a handshake, a doorknob, a towel in the pool, trying on shoes in a store. The virus penetrated the skin cells and lay dormant, waiting. For years, it can sit quietly. You don't even suspect it's there. And then stress, a cold, age-related decline in immunity, a course of antibiotics, lack of sleep, surgery, and it awakens. Infected skin cells begin to divide uncontrollably, and a growth appears on the surface, on the neck, under the arms, on the eyelids, on the fingers, on the feet. Sometimes one, sometimes dozens, sometimes hundreds all over the body. And here's the first critical point. There are over 200 types of the human papillomavirus. 200. And each type causes its own kind of growth in its own place, with its own level of danger. Most types are absolutely harmless. A cosmetic defect, nothing more. But some, the 16th, 18th, 31st, 33rd, are considered oncogenic. This means that under certain conditions, they are capable of causing cell degeneration, malignant degeneration. I'm not saying this to scare you. I'm saying this so that you understand. Before you smear, cauterize, or remove anything yourself, look at the growth carefully. And if you see even one of the signs that I'm about to name, do not touch it. Go to a dermatologist today, not tomorrow. Sign 1. The growth is growing rapidly. If it has noticeably increased in size over the past 2 to 3 weeks, this is an alarming signal. A common papilloma grows slowly for months and stops at a size of 2 to 5 mm. Rapid growth is a reason for a biopsy. The second sign is a change in color. The growth was flesh-colored or light brown and suddenly darkened, turning black, with inclusions of a different color. Uneven coloring is a classic sign that oncodermatologists pay attention to. The third sign is bleeding. You didn't touch it or injure it, but it bleeds or becomes covered with a crust that falls off and bleeds again. A healthy papilloma doesn't bleed without injury. Spontaneous bleeding requires a doctor's attention. The fourth sign is pain. A common papilloma doesn't hurt. If the growth becomes sensitive, aching, itching constantly, or painful to the touch, it could be anything but a harmless papilloma. The fifth sign is location on mucous membranes or in genital areas. Condylomas are also a manifestation of HPV, but types that require mandatory medical supervision. Self-medication in genital areas is unacceptable. Just remember the doctor. It's growing, darkening, bleeding, and painful. We leave it alone on the mucous membranes. We go to a dermatologist. Everything else, and that's the vast majority of cases, 95%, can be removed at home safely, cheaply, and permanently. Give a like if you have at least one papilloma that you've been carrying around for years and still can't bring yourself to do anything about it. I'm sure that's the majority of you. And today we'll change that. Now let's figure out why pharmacy remedies generally don't work well, why papillomas return after cryodestruction and laser treatment, and what exactly needs to be done to remove the growth not for a month, but for good. The answer lies in one word: root. Every papilloma and wart has a root, and until you get it out, it will grow back again and again, like a weed in a garden bed. And it's precisely this root that the 60-ruble remedy I'll tell you about in a few minutes gets to. But first you need to understand how this root works and why conventional methods don't touch it. Imagine the flu, a common white mushroom in the forest. The cap is what you see on the outside, A papilloma or wart is the visible part, and underground is the mycelium, a root network that goes deep and nourishes everything above. If you cut off the cap, the mycelium is alive. In a week, a new mushroom will grow, in exactly the same spot. It's the same story with papillomas. What you see on the skin is only the tip. Underneath it, in the thickness of the epidermis, are virus-infected cells that form the so-called root zone. They live at a depth of 1 to 3 millimeter in the basal layer of the skin, and it is they who produce new viral particles that infect neighboring cells and cause the growth to grow. Now look at what standard methods do. Cryodestruction. Liquid nitrogen freezes the growth at 196 degrees Celsius. The upper layers of skin are destroyed. The papilloma falls off within a week or two. It's beautiful and quick, but the freezing depth in a standard procedure is 0.51 millimeters, and the root is 15 to 2 millimeter deeper. If the doctor applies too much pressure, healthy tissue will be burned and a scar will form. If the pressure isn't enough, the root will remain, and a new papilloma will grow within a month. Statistically, the recurrence rate after a single cryodestruction is 30 to 50%. Every second or third case occurs. Laser is more precise, but more expensive, and also not a guarantee. The recurrence rate is 20 to 30%, depending on the type of laser and the skill of the doctor. Pharmacy remedies for home use include supersalandine, cryopharma, and similar products. Supersalandine is basically celandine. Read the ingredients: sodium hydroxide and potassium hydroxide, alkali. Aggressive chemicals that corrode tissue indiscriminately. Papilloma, yes, but also healthy skin around it. Burns, scars, age spots, typical consequences. And most importantly, alkali does not penetrate to the root. It works superficially. The result is a scorched funnel at the site of the growth, which heals with a scar, and after 2 months, a new papilloma grows nearby from the same root. Cryopharma, a household analog of liquid nitrogen. A cylinder with propane and dimethyl ether. Temperature, 57 degrees. Compare with medical nitrogen, 196. The difference is more than 3 times. The freezing depth is minimal. For small papillomas the size of a pinhead, it may still work. Music. For everything else, money down the drain. And now, what you've been waiting for. A product that works differently, that doesn't burn, freeze, or corrode, but penetrates, gets to the root, and destroys infected cells deep down without touching healthy ones. Castor oil with baking soda. Wait, don't change the channel. I know how that sounds. Castor oil and baking soda, doctor? Are you serious? I was the same skeptic 20 years ago when I was first told about this method. An old paramedic from the district clinic. I grinned. Paramedics' tricks, I thought. And then tried it on myself, on my papilloma, which I'd been carrying for 7 years. And when after 4 days it turned black and fell off, and in its place there remained clean, pink, healthy skin, I sat down and started to figure it out. Here's what happens. Castor oil is ricinoleic acid, 85–90% of the composition. Castor oil has a unique penetrating ability. It penetrates all layers of the epidermis, including the basal layer. No other vegetable oil has this ability. That's why castor oil is used in pharmaceuticals as a vehicle. It delivers the medicine deep into the skin. But castor oil alone won't kill the fungus or stop the virus. It needs a partner. And that partner is ordinary baking soda, sodium bicarbonate. When you mix castor oil and baking soda to form a thick paste, the following happens. The baking soda creates an alkaline environment. Not an aggressive one like in supersalandine, but a mild one with a pH of around 9. This environment is uncomfortable for virus-infected cells. They lose their ability to divide. But castor oil delivers this alkaline environment deep down to the very root, to the basal layer where the virus resides. The result? The infected cells stop receiving nutrition, stop dividing, and begin to die. The papilloma darkens. This is the first sign that the root's blood supply is impaired. Then it dries out and eventually falls off. Healthy cells around it aren't harmed because their pH is within the normal range. They tolerate it easily, but viral cells don't. A 2018 study from the University of Sao Paulo, Brazil. Retinoleic acid, in combination with mild alkaline agents, demonstrated antiviral activity against several HPV strains in laboratory testing. The effectiveness of viral replication suppression was 67% with 7-day exposure. This isn't science fiction, it's published data. I'll tell you how to prepare the paste and how to apply it in a minute. But first, a warning. There's one mistake almost everyone makes when removing papillomas, and because of it, 5 papillomas appear in a month instead of 1. You do it with the best of intentions and start a chain reaction that's very difficult to stop. The mistake is cutting with scissors, a razor, thread, or tweezers. A person sees a small dangling papilloma on a stalk and thinks, "I'll just cut it off," and that's the end of it. He takes a pair of nail scissors, grabs the papilloma, snip, a drop of blood. He covers it with a bandage and forgets about it, and in 3 to 4 weeks, 2 more appear in the same spot, and a month later, 5. 6 months later, a scattering of small growths appears around the spot where the first one was. The person is horrified. They're multiplying. They're growing from treatment. No, they're growing from improper removal. And that's why, when you cut off a papilloma, you traumatize the tissue. At the moment of cutting, thousands of viral particles are released from the destroyed infected cells. They fall onto the surrounding skin, which is moist, warm, and has micro damage from the scissors, an ideal gateway for infection. The virus penetrates into neighboring cells and begins a new cycle. You haven't removed the papilloma. You've seeded the virus like a dandelion. They tore it off, scattering the seeds. The same thing happens when a papilloma is tied with a thread. Yes, it falls off, but it falls off traumatically, with tissue rupture and the release of viral particles. The thread also cuts off the blood supply, the tissue becomes necrotic, and inflammation sets in, sometimes suppuration. I've seen cases where, after being tied with a thread, an abscess developed on the neck that had to be surgically drained. Music. Because of a papilloma the size of a grain of rice, the rule is ironclad. Never cut, tear, or bandage the growths. Never. They must die on their own, from the inside out, from the root to the surface. Then the viral particles die inside the cells, without being released. The surrounding skin remains clean, and there will be no relapse. This is exactly how a paste made from castor oil and baking soda works. It doesn't cut, tear, or cauterize. It causes the growth to die off naturally, gently, safely, without spreading the virus. Now, the step-by-step instructions. Write it down. You'll need castor oil. It's sold at any pharmacy. A 30-milliliter bottle costs 40-60 rubles. Regular baking soda from the grocery store. Cotton swabs, regular medical adhesive bandages. That's all. Making the paste. In a small container, a bottle cap, a teaspoon, or a saucer. Drop 3 to 4 drops of castor oil. Add a pinch of baking soda. Stir with a toothpick or cotton swab until you have a thick paste, similar to toothpaste. Not runny, not dry, just pasty. Prepare a fresh batch each time. It doesn't keep. Apply in the evening before bed. Clean, dry skin. Apply the paste pointwise with a cotton swab only to the growth. Apply only to the papilloma or wart, not to healthy surrounding skin. Apply a thin but dense layer, ensuring it covers the entire surface of the growth. Place a small piece of adhesive tape on top to prevent the paste from smearing overnight. Go to bed. In the morning, remove the tape and wash off any residue with warm water and soap. Don't apply anything during the day, allowing your skin to breathe and rest. Repeat in the evening. Do this every day. What will you see? Nothing noticeable for the first 2 to 3 days. Don't be alarmed, don't give up. The product works deep down, not just on the surface. On the 3rd or 4th day, the papilloma will begin to darken, turning brownish, then dark brown. This means the blood supply to the root is disrupted, and the cells are dying. On the 5th to 7th day, the growth will dry out, wrinkle, and decrease in size. Mild itching may occur. This is normal. The skin is renewing itself. Between the 7th and 10th days, the papilloma will fall off on its own. Don't pull, pick, or force it. It should separate naturally. Underneath is pinkish, slightly lighter skin. The color will even out in 2 to 3 weeks. There will be no scarring because you didn't burn, cut, or freeze it. You simply allowed the unwanted cells to die. Important nuances. First, size. This method works ideally on papillomas up to 5 to 6 millimeters in size. This is the majority. Small growths on the neck, underarms, eyelids, and chest. For larger warts over a centimeter, the process will take longer, up to 3 weeks, and patience will be required. This also works for plantar warts, but preliminary preparation is required. Steam the foot, carefully remove the keratinized layer with a pumice stone, and only then apply the paste. Plantar warts are deep, up to 5 millimeters, and will require 2 to 3 weeks of nightly treatment. The second consideration is the eyelids. The skin on the eyelids is extremely thin. Castor oil is safe for the eyelids. It has been used in ophthalmology for centuries, but baking soda can sting if it gets into the eye. Therefore, use a minimal amount of paste on the eyelids. Apply directly to the growth without smearing. The patch is the smallest, hypoallergenic one. The third consideration, and this is extremely important, is that after the papilloma has fallen off, continue applying the paste to the area for another 3 to 4 evenings, prophylactically to kill any remaining infected cells that may have lingered in the deeper layers. This final touch is the difference between seemingly removed and permanently removed. Write in the comments the number of papillomas on your body right now. 1, 5, 10, 20. Be honest. It will help me understand the scale of the problem. And I promise, whatever your number, by the end of this video, you'll have a clear plan to reduce it to 0. And then there's the topic without which external treatment is a half measure, because skin papillomas, as I said, are a mushroom, a cap, and the mycelium is a virus inside your body, in your cells, in your blood. And while it's there, it will grow new caps in new places. Again and again, a blow from within is needed. And for this, there's one product that suppresses HPV replication so powerfully that scientists still haven't been able to create a synthetic analog. Broccoli. Now half the audience rolled their eyes. More broccoli, doctor. More of those green trees that are inedible. I understand. Be patient, because what I'm going to tell you isn't about vitamins or healthy vegetables for a healthy diet. This is about a specific substance found in broccoli and nowhere else in such quantities, and which attacks the papilloma virus with precision like a sniper. The substance is called tricorbinol, or I3S for short. It is formed during the breakdown of glucosinolates, compounds found in cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, and cabbage. But broccoli has the highest concentration of tricorbinol, 5 to 7 times higher than regular cabbage. What does tricorbinol do to the virus? It doesn't kill it directly. That's impossible. The virus is embedded within the cell. It does something smarter. It blocks the E6 and E7 proteins, 2 key viral proteins that HPV uses to suppress the immune defenses of infected cells. Without these proteins, the virus loses its superpower, its ability to hide from the immune system. The cell containing the virus becomes visible to your immune system, and your immune system finally does what it's supposed to. It destroys the infected cell along with the virus inside. This isn't a theory. A study published in the journal Gynecoi in 2011. 150 women with confirmed HPV infection of the cervix. Half received 200 milligauss of indoletric arbinol daily. The other half received a placebo. After 12 weeks, complete elimination of the virus, meaning complete disappearance of HPV from tests, occurred in 50% of participants in the first group. In the placebo group, it occurred in 10, a 5-fold difference. Think about it. Half the women completely got rid of the virus, not just papilloma, but the very same virus that is incurable and remains forever. Of course, this study concerned genital HPV, not cutaneous HPV, but indoletric arbinol's mechanism of action is universal.